Welcome back, everybody, to your Pixlr tutorials. We just gave, in our last screencast, gave a basic intro to the program, an overview of the workspace, and showed you how to import a picture. We're going to now start this screencast figuring that you already have your picture ready to go. I just wanted to show you how all these context menus, what all of those do. So, File will be where you open new image. You make a new image, you open an image, or open new image URL. Those are the three options you got when you loaded Pixlr for the first time, but in fancy picture form in a box in the middle of the screen. Saving your work, really important. This is where I would point out to you, okay, a very, very important thing. Now, when you save your work in Pixlr, if you save it as a JPEG, and then come back to it later, it will not have any layers in it. A JPEG, saving as a JPEG, makes it a flattened photo, what we call rasterized, okay? If you plan on saving your work that you were doing in multiple layers, as we'll get to as we work, we'll show you all the different layers and how they work. How layers work when you're working with them. So if you're working in layers and you save as a JPEG, you have now flattened your image and lost any ability to manipulate anything by layer. You you must save it as a PXD, a layered pixeler image, if you have multiple layers and you're in the middle of working and you want to save it and come back later. This is very, very important. You could lose a lot of work or have to go back and redo a bunch of things if you accidentally save in JPEG to come back to later instead of saving as a layered pixeler image. Now, PNG, BMP, and TIFF, we're not going to get into all those different things, but PNG is really you're saving when you're ready to save a finished picture. It's either in JPEG or in PNG. PNG comes in handy when you want areas of the photo to show up as transparent instead of white where you've erased it. And that's very important for, let's say, t-shirt designs and things like that. So PNG is a really good one to know about. And again, the other part is the PXD. That would be the equivalent of the PSD in Photoshop, where you could sort of save your work and come back to it later. Really, really, really important to remember all of those things. So back in the File menu, you also have the ability to log in. So if I'm going to sign in with Google and click Sign in with Google, I will obviously be doing that under my school account, as you should be doing as well. We do not want Flash to be blocked here. We want to be able to log in with Google, say accept Flash, and now you could see my name appears in the top right corner. That's one of the things, by the way, that why they're moving away from Pixlr Editor. I mean, this is still your most useful tool and has a lot more things that you can do to the picture versus Pixlr X right now. But this is Flash-based, which is slowly being deprecated, which means being phased out across the entire internet pretty much. And I believe that Pixlr X uses HTML5 or something else like that, and it's more future-proof. However, this is a more fully functional video editing program. Anyway, so then you just have close and log out and exit, and that's File. In Edit, here's where you have undo and redo, and here's where I point out to you that keyboard shortcuts are your friend. Imagine you did a bunch of work, and every time you did that work and wanted to undo it, you went to Edit, Undo. Just learn Control-Z. It's not that hard, and it saves you a bunch of time. And you might think, oh, edit, undo is like a second of your time. Well, if you add that up over the course of working on one photo, that adds up to many, many minutes of work that you and it's also just a bother to like move your mouse, especially if you're on the Chromebook and you're using your finger on the mouse pad. So just learn your keyboard shortcuts. Control-Z for undo, Control-Y for redo. X is cut and C is copy. Just, these are all the same in Word, right? Clearing an area that you've highlighted, which we'll get to later, is delete. Pasting, obviously, is Control-V. Control-T free transform, which I showed you in the intro screencast, is where you put a bounding box around your photo, and then it allows you to manipulate it with a this bounding box. So if you sort of go right here, that's going to be your rotate, right? But we don't want to do that right now. So we're going to press Enter so that it accepts the transform and then undo it so it goes back to normal. Then we're going to press Control-T. Oops, sorry. That's one of the limitations of working in Chrome. Control-T also means new tab. So for us, Control T is going to have to be through the menu. If you hold down Shift while you're doing free transform, then it transforms it in a proportional way. If you were to not have Shift held down, let me show you what that now looks like. Okay, this is how it starts transforming. And that is not going to be proportional. You want to usually, in almost every case, hold down Shift so it snaps to its proportions. Now let's say that I just went too far, did too much, and I can't get it exactly back to the corners that I wanted. I would just press Escape, and I would go back to how it was before I put the transform bounding box around it. Free distort is fun too. That's where you sort of have different options when you drag from the corner to sort of manipulate it that way. And that's distorting kind of the general bounds of the image. And I clicked accidentally outside of the transform box where it asked me, it thinks that I want to go away from transform. So it wants to confirm. Do you want to apply the changes? Would mean leave it the way that this looks. Say no would be to go back to your original box, and cancel would be let me continue transforming. I'm going to say no because I just want my picture back because I'm just trying to show you how everything works. You also have select all with a marquee tool, Control A. That would be selecting the photo. Marquee comes in handy for a number of different ways that we'll see when we get to the marquee tool. You also have deselect everything, like Control D. Sorry, it would be deselect everything, and that gets you to a plain photo again. Invert your selection would be if you had something selected and then you invert it, to select everything else. So real quick, just to show you with the marquee tool, let's say I select my head, but then I want to invert the selection so that everything except my head is, and then I just go Control X to cut, and now I have just my head there. So that would be the use of the tool invert selection. Hey, I don't like these bounding boxes being here and I want to get rid of them. How do I do that? I don't know how. Oh, remember we had deselect or Control D also found in your edit menu. Deselect all gets you back to a regular photo. That's most of the uses of that file and edit. Image, here's where you get to image size. This is very important if you have a somebody who tells you, oh, when you upload this image, it has to be X amount of pixels by X amount of pixels. This is very important for, like, let's say uploading a headshot or a picture to anything else where you're constrained in the proportions of the image. Well, this is where you would do that. Make sure you leave constrained proportions checked, because if you're told by people, oh, it needs to be 200 pixel width minimum, let's say 300, just so it'll be at least somewhat big. It'll automatically give you the height in the proportional number so that it maintains the rectangularness of your photo. So you see, I just changed the size of my image. When I save it, it'll be a lot smaller file size, and usually that's where those constraints come in for uploading and saving. Canvas size makes it so that you can now add to your side, an extra white space. So let's say you wanted to draw here or right here or something like that. That would be how you would do it, and the white space is useful for various different things. Flip canvas, rotate canvas 180 degrees would be just, upside downsy. 90 degrees would be one thing at a time. And then flip canvas vertical or horizontal are these quick little one-touch things to do that. Now that looks really weird to me because my face don't go like that. But that is what flipping it horizontal would be. We're going to cap the screencast here because we're almost at 9 minutes, and then I'll start with the next screencast with adjustment and filter. See you next time.